All right, so today is the last message on our series that we are doing for the past 7 weeks. So like I said, if you have missed any part of the message on this series, you need to go back and listen. You know, those who are online out there and even here in our church premise, please go back. It's all there, free of charge. At the convenience of your house, you can always watch and catch up. But for today, as we end our time in this series, I want to begin by asking this question. What kind of person inspires you? What kind of person inspires you? Is it someone who leverages his power, his authority, or his influence for his own benefits only? Or is it someone who leverages his power, his authority, his influence, his position for the benefit of other people? Which one of the two inspires you? It's like, do you go something like, wow, it's like you are so impressed and your soul gets so fired up. And you say, you know what, I want to be like him, I want to be like her. When you see someone or when you hear someone leveraging his authority, his position, his resources, his money, his time, his skills for his own benefits only, and sometimes at the expense of others. Or do you go like, wow, your spirit just gets fired up, your soul gets fired up, and you say, I want to be like him, I want to be like her. When you hear or when you see someone leveraging what he has, who he is, for the benefit of other people around. Well, some of you might say, well, who cares? Who cares? Why bother about, whether I am inspired or I aspire to be someone who leverages his power or influence for the benefit of others. Who cares? Who bothers, to think about all this? Well, in case if you're thinking this, it could well mean that actually you are quite influenced by the so-called the majority norm. The majority norm is where people leverage themselves. People leverage who they are, what they have, for themselves only. And this so-called majority norm should disturb everyone and any one of us. And this must disturb you if you are a follower of Jesus. So everyone watching online and everyone here, if you are a follower of Jesus, this so-called majority norm that people will usually leverage who they are, what they have for their own benefits only, this kind of majority norm should and must disturb you. But why? You should ask. I should ask. Why? What's so bad in that? Why should we be bothered? Why should we be disturbed by such attitude? Well, let me tell you why. Let me tell you the reason why through one of the conversations of Jesus that took place with his disciples, the 12 disciples, the closest followers of Jesus. And the context of this conversation that took place between Jesus and his 12 disciples were such that they were going into Jerusalem. And, as they were going into Jerusalem, Jesus was telling his 12 disciples what's going to happen to Jesus. And please take note, this was not the first time that the 12 disciples of Jesus are hearing from Jesus what's going to happen to him. This is almost a third time that the disciples of Jesus are hearing from Jesus. And let me show you. It's taken out from Mark chapter 10. And so Mark recorded for us saying like this, we are going up to Jerusalem, he said, Jesus said. And the Son of Man, referring to himself, will be delivered over to the chief priests and the teachers of the law. So remember again, this is not the first time that the disciples of Jesus are hearing this. Okay, this is almost a third time that Jesus is telling them what the leaders, the religious leaders, will do to him. And then Jesus continues on to say, they will condemn him to death, and will hand him over to the Gentiles, who will mock him and spit on him, flog him and kill him. But 3 days later, he will rise. And then James and John. Then James, immediately after what Jesus said, what will happen to him, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him and said, "Teacher," they said, "we want you to do for us whatever we ask." It's like, Jesus is so serious, Jesus is like, you can just imagine, right? Jesus with that kind of emotion, Jesus would be telling them, and the fact that Jesus told the disciples 3 times, it could mean something, right? It would well mean that, I got to tell them again because they are not getting what I'm saying. They don't believe what I'm saying, what's going to happen to me. And it's like Jesus, I'm just imagining, okay? It's like Jesus is like, all right, perhaps this time they will take me serious, when I say that I will be, handed over to the religious leaders and I will be killed at their hands. And Jesus is like waiting like, and then immediately the sons of Zebedee, James and John, Jesus. And then Jesus was like, yes, you finally understood. We want you to do something for us. It's like, what? And then Jesus, being Jesus, right? He wouldn't kind of like cut you off. And in a sense, he would always kind of like care for you. And Jesus said, well, go ahead. What do you want me to do for you? And this is what James and John said to Jesus. Jesus, when you sit on your glorious throne, this is where the disciples of Jesus and almost all the Jewish people at that time who were following Jesus got it right. They got it right in the sense that Jesus is the promised Messiah, the long-awaited Messiah. And that's why, James and John said, when you sit on your glorious throne. But again, at the same time, they also got it something wrong. And that is this. Because when they said, when you sit on your glorious throne, they were not referring to the future glory that Jesus will come and bring them to heaven. But they were referring to the immediate cause, because as they were waiting for a deliverer, and lo and behold, Jesus is here, the Messiah. So when they say, when you sit on your glorious throne, they were thinking of, all right, we are going into Jerusalem. And so Jesus is going to declare himself as the King of Israel. And we are going to team up, we are going to wage battle against our oppressors, the Rome. And finally, we shall be delivered. And so, James and John, in the light of that, because when we are going into Jerusalem, that's right, we are excited to go, Jesus. And so when we go and you declare yourself to be the king, and when you finally you declare yourself king and everybody herald you as the king, we want to sit in the places of honor next to you, one on your right, one to your left. In place of honor. So you see what they were thinking? They were more concerned. James and John were more concerned about their power and position with Jesus rather than the plight and predicament of Jesus. Funny, isn't it? And you and I can say from here how selfish the followers of Jesus were. And hey, before you judge too much, that's a reflection for all of us, isn't it? Whether you are a Jesus follower or not. But even if we are Jesus followers, that's always the struggle. And James and John, they said this, they asked this request, they made this request in front of the rest of the disciples. So there were 12 disciples, so 2 of them made this request, so the 10 of them heard about it. And guess what happened when the 10 heard about it? Of course, this is what Mark records for us. right? He says what? When the 10 heard about this, they became indignant with James and John. Of course, if you were among 10 of them, if I was among the 10, I would be angry. I would be jealous. I would be thinking, I should have asked first. Missed the opportunity. This James and John, wow, lucky them. I think they will be sitting on his right and left, when Jesus declares himself to be the King of Israel when we go to Jerusalem. So they were indignant. And this is where Jesus is like, okay, enough is enough. All right, okay. Jesus is like, change topic. It's not working. They are not getting what I'm telling them about what's going to happen to me. And so Jesus is like, okay, all right. I take this opportunity and teach them something that they will never forget. I will teach them something that is out of the norm. And so Jesus took the opportunity of James and John requesting for a place of honor. And Jesus is basically saying, well, I got to teach you something. If you're going to be my followers, here's something that I want to teach you. And Jesus called them together and said this. Jesus said, you know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them. And their high officials exercise authority over them. So this is where the disciples of Jesus would go something like this. That's right. We agree. Because you see, that was the culture, that was the norm in their culture. They see the Gentiles, they see the Rome officials, those who are the soldiers, those who are the high officials. Even among their own Jewish religious leaders, it's quite apparent in that society. That's what they see every day. And so when Jesus said, you know what, these rulers, right? They use their power, they use their authority for their own benefits. They lord over them. They exercise their authority over them. They boss around. They boss people around them. And when Jesus said this, you must understand, Jesus didn't say it in a positive manner. Jesus said it in a negative sense. Jesus said it in a negative sense. In other words, they get what they want by using their power and position. They get what they want for themselves. And sometimes, or rather at that time, and many times, that's what they do. They leverage their position, they leverage their authority, their influence for their own benefits only. And everybody at that time, the disciples would say yes. Yep, we agree. That's what we are saying. And in fact, I'm just imagining, James and John would be like thinking, yes, Jesus. In fact, that's what we want. We want to be in a place of honor. We want to be in a place of authority where we can also boss people around. We can get things done. We can advance your kingdom. And we can build the name, Jesus, we are your followers, And imagine, you must understand again that the followers of Jesus at that time, they were all like ordinary people, like most of us. So that was the norm. And Jesus is basically saying this, that should not be the norm for you. That should not be the norm for you if you want to be my followers. That's what Jesus said in the next verse. Jesus made this famous phrase, not so with you. That's how the Gentiles behave. That's how everyone and anyone that you see around you, and you are influenced by them. I don't blame you for that. And Jesus is saying, but if you want to be my followers, not so with you. Cannot be. If you're not my followers, that's fine. I have nothing against them. who does that out there, who uses their own power, authority, and influence for their own benefits only, even at the expense of other people. I have nothing against them if they are not following me. But if you are going to follow me, and guys, looking at the 12 disciples, you guys are the closest followers that I have. And you guys, I have a future for you. But you are being influenced. I mean, the fact that James and John ask for a place of honor, and the fact that the 10 of them, the rest of them, got angry with James and John. And they got angry with James and John not in the sense that, how come you ask this kind of question? No. The idea given is that they also wished to be in that place. And Jesus is saying, not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to be great among you, Jesus said, must be your servant, and whoever wants to be the first must be slave of all. But why? And I would like to imagine again in the minds of the disciples at that time, they would be asking why. I mean, why can't we leverage our own authority, power, or influence, our position for our own benefit? Why? What is wrong with that, Jesus? Why can't we adopt what is so-called the majority norm that we see around us? And it's as if like Jesus heard their thoughts and Jesus heard their doubts. Jesus said, very simple. Well, he continued on and said, because even the Son of Man, referring to himself, did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus is basically saying this. If you follow me, then you have to imitate me. And you have to imitate me with regards to leveraging. And the leverage here is what I'm telling you, not so with you as you see around you. Because I have come, and you are going to see in about a few days later, you are about to see how I am going to leverage my life for the sake, for the benefits, for the good of many, including you. And you know what? Paul, who came later on, Paul had the same idea. Paul got the same idea of Jesus leveraging. And this is what he wrote to the Philippians. Remember in Philippians chapter 2, this is what he said. Though he, referring to Jesus, though Jesus was God. I mean, look, it's beautifully written. He did not think of that equality of being God himself. He did not use that, the equality with God, being God himself. He did not use that as something. He did not take that as something to be used for his own benefit. He did not take advantage of Jesus being God himself. And it's like, Jesus has the authority, right? Jesus had the authority, the power to call heaven down on earth and just destroy in a split of second. When Jesus was hung on the cross, he could have just said one word and everything would have turned into ashes. He had the power to call down legions and legions and legions of angels from heaven. But Jesus didn't. Jesus became human, but Jesus was still God. But he didn't use his divine power for his own benefit. In fact, he used his power to give his life for the benefit of many people. And so that's the idea, you see. Come on, let's be honest. For those of us who are Jesus followers, we are who we are today because Jesus leveraged his authority, power, for our benefits. You and I, we have new life because of the very fact that Jesus leveraged his power, his authority for you and for me. And likewise, Jesus wants you, Jesus wants us to do the same for others. And so here's what basically Jesus was telling the 12 disciples at that time during his conversation. And I think in essence, in principle, Jesus is also telling each one of us, all his followers, and if you are considering to be one, this is what Jesus is basically saying. Leverage your authority, your power, or your influence for the benefit of others. That's right. Leverage your authority. Leverage who you are. Leverage what you have. Leverage your experience. Leverage your connections. Leverage your money. Leverage your skill. Leverage your resources. Your time. Not just for your own benefits, but more so for the benefit, for the good of someone else. Now you got to understand, I am not saying, and Jesus is not saying, all right? Jesus is not against us to want to have authority. Jesus is nothing against you climbing up the social ladder. No. Don't misinterpret that way. There is nothing wrong, and Jesus is not against you and I having authority, power, influence, higher position, higher pay, being rich or being influential, having all kinds of connection, and so on and so forth. Jesus is not against that. In fact, can I say this? God actually wants some of you to be very successful in your careers. You agree with me? You believe that? Just like there are so many out there even currently. I'm sure you can think of someone, come on, right? Even in Singapore, around the world. There are so many Jesus followers who are up there in the social ladder, who have the authority to make policies, who have the authority, the influence to make changes. I believe God wants, in the different levels of the social ladder, God wants his followers to be everywhere. And of course, God wants, like you and me, to be where we are as well. You know, just like me, for some of you. Average guy, just normal, we are here. But I'm sure Jesus wants for some of us to climb up there. So there is nothing wrong in that. There is nothing wrong in wanting to be successful in life. But actually Jesus and God wants us to be successful in life. The challenge is this. And this is only referring to the followers of Jesus. So in case you are watching this and just your friend invited you and you are not a follower of Jesus, this may not apply to you. But I think there is a gem in listening to Jesus, all right? So if you're not a follower of Jesus, that's all right. But if you are a follower of Jesus, and I believe most of us watching and most of us over here in the church premise, we are. The challenge is this: will you leverage for yourself only, or will you leverage yourself for others as well? So there's nothing wrong in climbing. There's nothing wrong in having those positions and influence. The only issue that Jesus will find with you is whether you are leveraging, whether in your dream of success. Here's one way to kind of like critically evaluate yourself, and that is this. I believe I believe in dreaming. I believe in really dreaming big dreams. But here's the thing. This is one way you can kind of like evaluate yourself. Ask this: in my dream of success, do I see a group of people that I have the plan to help or to bless? Because you see, as a Jesus follower, if you don't have, in your dream of success, if you don't have any group of people in mind, or even someone in mind that you can help, that you can bless, then I think that will be the question mark. That will be the challenge for you. You see, I have seen, and I believe you have seen, so many who are not Jesus followers, right? I'm sure you can think of someone, if I were to ask you to think of someone who is out there in the social ladder, who are really like up there, who have the authority, who have the power, who have the influence. And they are leveraging their power, their influence for the sake, for the benefit of others. And they are not Jesus followers. Can you think of anyone? I'm sure you can. I can. I have people, I have friends who are not Jesus followers, but they are on fire to leverage their power, their money, their resources for the benefit of others. Now, I know some of you, I know what you are thinking. Some of you may be thinking, oh, but Ayan, you don't know what, right? Some of them do it for ulterior motives, just to blow their own trumpet and all those. Hey, can we stop being a bit this kind of skeptic, That's fine. I know, we know, right? There are some people who do that. But that's not the point today. The point is that people, who are not Jesus followers, they leverage their position, their authority, their passion, their knowledge for the benefit of others. Even if they do it with ulterior motives. Come on. Aren't they changing lives? And the answer is yes. And who are we to judge them, right? Unless they are followers of Jesus, like you and me, then we have the right to judge them. But if they are not, then you and I have no right to judge them. So here's my point, my friends, my brothers and sisters. There are so many who are not Jesus followers, but leveraging in that way. What more for you and me? What more for us as followers of Jesus that we got to be thinking in terms of leveraging ourselves for the benefit of others? Now, having said that, let's be practical, all right? I know most of us are practical people, and that's good. So let's be practical here. And let me put it this way. What good, right? What good can leveraging on our power and influence for the benefit of others do? I mean, what good does it do, right? I think it can do a greater good. I think it can do something that is beyond our imagination. Let's be honest. For some of you, you are who you are today. You are where you are today in your career, in your spirituality, in your family, in your relationship with your spouse, in your relationship with your parents, your children, your colleagues. Some of you are where you are today, who you are today, because somebody came along the way, leveraged his or her power, influence, resources, time for your benefit. And that's why you are where you are today. That's why you have that job today. That's why you have that relationship today. Because somebody else came alongside and leveraged their power, their resources, their experience, their knowledge, and they were willing to just impart to you, give it to you for your benefit. Someone recommended you to a good job. Someone said something good about you, and that's why you got in. Someone wrote a good letter. Someone connected you with someone, and someone, you know how this takes place. And if I were to tell you stories about, people leveraging for the benefit of others, and people who have benefited from people who leverage what they have for their sake. There are so many stories to tell, but there is one in particular that I recently came across, and I tell you that just inspired me. It was a short video that I watched. For those of you who went through Alpha course with us just recently, his testimony was part of the Alpha talk. It was a very short talk, and it inspired me so much that I said I got to go and Google this guy. And I went to Google him. I went on YouTube, and I tell you, wow, he has a full version of his story. And I listened, and I tell you, I listened more than 3 times because I was so inspired. His name is Scott Harrison. If you go to YouTube, you can find. Today, I will not show you the longer version. I will show you again the shorter version. And I tell you, you must go. After today, please go and just Google him in YouTube and watch the longer version, and you will be inspired. You know, Scott Harrison, he was a nightclubber. He was a nightclub promoter. All right, promoting, people to come to nightclub. I mean, he did that for, I think, about, if I'm not mistaken, for about 10 years. But he leveraged his connections. He leveraged his skill of promoting. He leveraged his money that he has earned for the benefits of a special group of people that I tell you, if you listen and you watch, it will inspire you. And I hope it will inspire you. So sit back and watch this short video of how Scott Harrison leveraged his power, his influence for the benefit of a specific group of people.
This is crazy that a guy like me in a nightclub can sell a bottle of water for $10 that some people don't even open. And yet, at the time, 1 billion people worldwide were living without clean water. Everybody can come together and agree that human beings need clean water. Kids should not be dying of bad water because they had to drink from a swamp. So we would go to dinner at 10 o'clock, we would go to the club at 12, and then we might go to after hours at 4. Well, my breaking point came at 28, and it was really a realization that I was on the wrong path. My life on the outside looked great. I dated a girl who was on the cover of fashion magazines. I drove a BMW. I had a grand piano in my New York City apartment, and the Labrador Retriever, the dog I always wanted. I realized I was deeply unhappy. And if I continued down this path, I was leaving perhaps one of the most meaningless legacies of anybody on the planet. I mean, my tombstone might actually read, "Here lies Scott Harrison, who has gotten 1 million people wasted." And I realized that I needed to make a radical change because I didn't want my tombstone to read that. One organization said, if I was actually willing to pay them $500 a month and go live in Liberia, which was the poorest country in the world, then I could serve. I lived on a huge hospital ship, and my role was the photojournalist. I was going to be documenting all of the work that these amazing doctors and surgeons did. The country had come out of 14 years of civil war and was just broken. And what I saw there just shocked me. I saw leprosy, I saw people with facial tumors and flesh-eating disease and stuff I'd never even heard of. And I learned that half of the country was drinking from green, algae-filled swamps, from brown, viscous. And I learned that the lack of clean water was causing so many of these health issues. So instead of wanting to go fund, another hospital ship or pay for more surgeries, I thought, why don't I go attack the root cause of so much of this sickness? So why don't I make water my issue? When I first got on the ship, I took an email list of 15,000 people with me. So I'd spent 10 years building up an email list, inviting people to fashion parties, and it was a pretty shocking thing, because in August you got invited to a Prada megastore opening party. And then in September, you got emails about tumors. Most people were responding to these images, these videos that I was sharing, the stories saying, oh my gosh, I didn't know that people were living like this. How can I help? The only idea I had to get Charity Water started was to throw my 31st birthday in a club, get 700 people to come, and then on the way in I said, hey, please just drop $20. 100% of this money is going to go to a refugee camp in northern Uganda and help people get clean water. And that night, I remember there was actually a guy who was selling weed who I knew, and he came into the party and he dropped $500 in that box. And he said to me, this is the first charitable donation I have ever made in my life, but I know where all this money is going to go. And that night we raised $15,000. We took 100% of the money to that camp. We built a few projects, and then we sent the photos, the GPS, and then video back to the 700 people that came. And people were so blown away. We've never taken money from governments. We don't often take money from foundations. It's just everyday people that reject the apathy, right, that would be so easy to embrace with a global problem this big. But we can't touch any of that money to pay our staff, to pay for our office. So it's been incredibly difficult, but we believe in the model so much. It's been, 15 years now. I never touched coke or any of that stuff again, never gambled again, never set foot in a strip club or looked at pornography or any of that. I've now been to 69 countries around the world. I've been to Ethiopia 30 separate times. I recently saw the first well built for my 31st birthday in that nightclub, that party in the nightclub. And it was 11 years later, and it's still working. And the well was all banged up. I mean, it was dented, and we reckoned it had been pumped 50 million times. It had pumped over 10 million liters. You know, imagine, that's like 20 million glasses of water over the last 10 years. And to see it still working was so moving, and to see the women and the children in that village and know that they were continuing to benefit because a bunch of people came to a party and tossed $20 a decade later. It felt amazing. I used to promote then, you know, hey, turn up at our club, get past the velvet rope, sit with all the beautiful people inside, and your life has meaning. And for the last 12 years, I've been saying, care for others, right? Give of your heart to compassion and empathy, and reach out your hands. Be a global citizen, be a good neighbor. Give generously, and your life has a greater purpose. And you can be really proud of that. So I'm still promoting, just a completely different thing.
I think everyone should dream to be successful in life, like Scott Harrison. So inspiring, isn't it? I believe every one of us, and if you are a follower of Jesus, really, we should dream to be successful in your studies, in your career. You should dream to be successful in achieving, in having that authority and influence. That you should dream to be successful, to be in the gifted areas of skills and talents. To be in a position where you can help, where you can bless without having to think twice. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, look at Scott Harrison. Doesn't have to think twice. With the position that he has, with the experience that he has, with the resources that he has. Wouldn't it be great that you and I can be successful in life? Not just for the sake of promoting ourselves, but for the sake of promoting and benefiting the people around us and around the world. And guess that's what? Jesus is inviting you and me. Jesus is inviting everyone to that kind of life. But of course, because some of you may be thinking, well, that's Scott Harrison, my brother. I don't think I'm going to be a night. By the way, I'm not telling you to go and be a nightclub promoter like him and be successful. Hey, please don't misunderstand that. I'm not saying that. That was the way that God used him. And I'm not saying that you and I have to be that successful. I'm not saying that you don't have you have to be only up there in the social ladder to be able to leverage yourself for the sake of others. No. Nothing could be further from the truth, right? You don't have to be that successful to leverage yourself to bless and help others. You can leverage on your gifting, the gifting that you already have, the passion that you have. Some people think that, well, I just have the passion, that's it. Well, what can I do? But I think you and I have no idea of the power and the potential that your passion and my passion can do. So you can leverage on that. You can leverage on your experience. Some of you have a wealth of experience in a certain area of your life. You can leverage on your knowledge that you have over the years that you have kind of like accumulated. And so on and so forth. Whatever you have at this moment, wherever you are in that social ladder, question is, what do you have? What do you have? What do you have right now? I mean, fine. If you say, no, Ian, what I have is over there in 10 years' time. That's fine. Keep that fire going. But right now, what do you have? What do you have that you can leverage on for the benefit of someone else? And you know what? I don't know, because if you're watching online, I cannot see you, right? Only you can see me. But over here in the church premise, those who have come to help in today's live stream, I can even see among here, some of you here, in fact, all of you here actually, how God has gifted you in specific areas, your heart, your passion, your experience, and you are leveraging on that to benefit. You are leveraging, all of us who have come here today in this church premise, we have come to leverage our time and our experience and our passion for the benefit of everyone watching online. That's right. So later when we send you the picture, please say thank you. Just kidding, all right? But that's, my point. You don't have to be up there, but yes, go up there if the Lord is leading you there. But wherever you are right now, today, what do you have that you can leverage on for the benefit of others? And I want to leave you with this question. Ask yourself this question. How will I leverage myself for the benefit of someone else? How will I leverage myself? How will I leverage what I have, who I am, my experience, my knowledge, my position, my passion, my experience? How will I leverage? And if you are saying that, well, I am already doing, then yes, that's the way it is. Would you encourage someone else to do likewise? If you are not doing it, then today is a good start to think, how will I leverage myself for the benefit of someone else? And I bet you can find something about you that you can leverage on for others. So the real question is this. The real question is not how will I leverage. The real question is this. How, or rather will you? The real question is, will you leverage yourself for the sake of others, for the benefit of someone else? And my challenge is that you and I, everyone here, will aspire to inspire people. That's right. That you and I will aspire to inspire people with your story, with my story of leveraging. And I hope that's my encouragement, and I hope that's your encouragement as well. Now you have to understand this, right? You don't have to be a Jesus follower to leverage yourself for others. We already know that. And at the same time, you also don't have to be what? Someone who would leverage for the sake of others if you are not a Jesus follower. You don't have to. You are not obliged. If you're not a Jesus follower, you're not obliged to leverage yourself for the benefit of others. But if you are a Jesus follower, or you are considering to be one, then you have no choice. Then I have no choice, really. Because that's what Jesus said. Not so with you. Jesus said, not so with you. You have to leverage yourself for the benefit of others as well. And my brothers and sisters in Christ, my friends, I think this is why. This is why the invitation of Jesus to follow Him and His ways is the best invitation that you or any one of us can ever receive. I truly believe that. Because this invitation, this is an invitation to live your life beyond you. And guess what? When you and I begin to live our lives beyond you, beyond ourselves, what happens is that you and I begin to have greater sense of purpose and meaning in life. Don't you agree with me with that? Isn't that true? I mean, isn't it true that some of the people, you have those people in your mind? Isn't it true that some of the people who have a great sense of purpose and meaning in life are the ones who are actually living beyond themselves? Isn't it? So, if you are someone who is considering to follow Jesus. You have been following us for the past 7 weeks. With the intention, with the idea of exploring whether you want to accept the invitation of Jesus to follow Him. Well, I think this is a great season for you to say yes to Jesus. Christmas season, I think, is a significant, it's so timely, is the most apt season for you to say yes to Jesus, to follow Him. You know why? Because Christmas Day is the beginning, is the stepping stone, is the beginning of Jesus leveraging for the benefit of many people. So I hope you will consider and say yes to follow Jesus and see how your life can turn around for good. But please take time and continue to journey with us. Come January, we are opening up for people to come for Sunday services. I hope to see some of you who have never been a part of our community. We are excited and we are waiting to have new faces, to have new brothers and sisters to just connect and to relate with. So I hope to see you next month. If you are already a Jesus follower like me, I think it is still significant. It's still significant for you and me to relook the way we have been following Jesus. Isn't it? I hope these 7 messages, this series, have given an opportunity for all of us to have a hard look on ourselves. For those of us who are Jesus followers. Come on, brothers. Come on, sisters. It's not what you believe about Jesus. It's how we behave. It's how we love. It's not even your passion, your heart for God, your heart for the church. Come on. You know that. Jesus is not impressed. And Jesus is not like, oh, I want like holy people. I want like, wow, those who are very... No. Jesus wants normal people. Jesus wants authentic people. Jesus wants people who have the hallmark of Jesus, hallmark of a Jesus follower, and that is love. Loving one another the way He loved us. So I hope that this series, if you are open, it will give you a hard look on yourself. And when you find something that is not aligned, when there is a gap in how you are following Jesus, I hope that God will give you the strength, and I hope you will be humble enough to realign back to what it truly means to be a follower of Jesus. So that's my encouragement, and I hope this series has blessed you and continue to bless others if you think that this series can bless someone else. With that, I wish you a blessed and a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next Sunday for our special time together with our Chinese congregation, and on Christmas Day as well, where we can celebrate together. With that, God bless you.